Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about why you can't consider yourself untouchable. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Just because you're a professor doesn't mean you're untouchable. I'm a student at a local community college because the gen ed classes are much cheaper. I had a heart transplant when I was younger, but it was too late and I now suffer from chronic nerve pain that only gets worse the more active I am. So I have a handicap parking pass. One thing to note is at this college with 5,000 plus students, there's roughly 20 to 30 handicap spaces. On an average day, there's more unused faculty spaces than handicap spaces total. Fast forward to my third semester. I'd gotten into the habit of arriving an hour and a half to 2 hours early to make sure I got a handicap spot because the next closest spaces are about 1,200 feet away and you had to climb a hill to get to the main building. I'd kill time by doing homework with my friends or playing D&D. First day of the semester, I park, and as I'm getting my laptop out of my car, I noticed that another car had pulled up behind mine. The driver, older woman, hereby referred to as EB, short for Entitled B, asked if I was parking there. I, of course, answered, yes, I have a placard. She scoffs and says out loud, "Who is it, your grandmother's?" and drives away. At the time, I didn't think too much of it. I'm young and don't have a wooden leg or anything, so it's happened before. The next day, I arrive like I always do and notice that all the handicap spots are full and that the same car from yesterday is parked there. This time, I recognize the woman in it. She's an English professor. One of my friends has her for 18th century literature. I find this odd because the faculty spots are really close by. EB sees me and smirks. Whatever, I suck it up and park. That day, me and my friends are playing D&D in a room we found. EB walks by and sees me and my friends and tells us we're not allowed to be there and we need to leave this second. Now I'm really pissed. She's only doing this to be a bee. We weren't hurting anyone and her class next door doesn't even start for almost an hour, but she still sits in that room and reads a novel. She does the same thing every chance she gets for weeks. So I've been thinking of a way to solve this problem for most of the semester. Talking to the English department head, my literature of science fiction teacher, I find out that she doesn't even have a placard. The one she hung from her mirror is her grown son's. Now I know what to do. Here's what I did. Reserve the room she had her class in until 5 minutes before her class for Dungeons and Dragons Club with a sign and everything. Then I alerted campus police that several people were using other people's handicap tags. For those unaware, you get paperwork when you go get one validating that it's yours. In my state, using one that's not yours is a towable offense and an automatic fine, so campus police start asking for people's paperwork. That day starts like most others that semester. Get there, she's in a handicap spot. I go to play Dungeons and Dragons. But when she comes to kick us out of her room, but she can't because I've reserved it. After I inform her of this, she storms off mumbling about seeing the dean. She comes back for her class, but by that time, I'm on my way out. After my class, I go out to the lot and notice that her car is missing. Next day, I arrive and EB's car isn't in one of the spots. It was towed. Best feeling of my life that day. My friend tells me later that she arrived to class 10 minutes late that day and covered in sweat. She biked there for the rest of the semester. Never had a problem with her for the rest of that semester. What a grumpy old cow. She had it coming. And our second story. Lady threatens to report me to head office for asking her to wear a sock. I work in a busy shoe shop. In the summer, we offer customers nude-colored, almost see-through pop socks to wear if they'd like to try anything on. The socks are mostly for hygiene purposes as people often come from the beach with sandy or wet feet. I fully appreciate that it can be a little awkward to try on sandals with a pop sock, but it does help to minimize any potential damage to our stock, and as a result, all of our sandals in particular have remained in much better condition over the summer months in previous years. My colleagues and myself must have offered pop socks to hundreds, if not thousands of people over the last 18 months, so it's nothing personal if we ask each customer who comes into the shop barefoot to wear one. Today, during a particularly busy spell, I saw one lady take off her walking boot and quickly try to put her bare foot into a sandal. I'll be M for me, she'll be C for customer. M. Hi there, I'm sorry to ask, but could I offer you a pop sock to try our shoes on with, please? She looks visibly irritated but says nothing. At this point, I move from one side of the shop to present her with a little box full of unused socks. She proceeds to snatch one out of the box, still not looking at me. Are these socks clean? Yes, they're all fresh. We dispose of them after every use. This bugs me and my colleagues immensely as it's extremely wasteful, but the socks are single-use and disintegrate in the washing machine. She starts putting on the sock with a disgruntled expression. How am I supposed to try this sandal on with a sock? I can't get my toe in. This sandal in particular has a leather toe post/loop. It's a little more difficult to get the toe through the loop with a sock on, but customers usually manage absolutely fine by pulling the sock a bit looser around the big toe and wiggling them slightly to get them through. Me. Most of our customers manage okay. It does take a bit of wiggling though. Give it a go. She puts her foot in about 2 inches into the sandal opening and immediately takes it out. I can't try this on with a sock. I have a bunion and they have to fit right. At this point, this lady is really starting to bug me. I look down at her feet and study the bunion on her foot, realizing that the particular style of sandal she chose is probably not suitable for her as it isn't quite wide enough to accommodate the width of her foot. Me. Oh, okay. I thought I just sounded contemplative in my reply, but she didn't seem to take my response that way and didn't give me time to say anything else. She pulled the sock off her foot in one swift motion and started to put her shoe back on. While she was doing this, I let her know that there was a bin just to her right that she could use to dispose of the sock. This must have tipped her over the edge somehow, as she then proceeded to throw our entire sandal back onto the shelf in a tantrum-style manner. I just gaped, behind my face mask, at her behavior as our stock is high quality and I thought the action was quite disrespectful. The lady then turned on her heel and walked straight past me. As she got to the door, she turned back, still not looking directly at me, and said, "You'll be lucky if I don't report you for your attitude." And then she left, leaving me feeling rather baffled. I didn't really have a chance to fully react, but I kept hoping she'd come back so I could tell her to go right ahead and report me while conveniently presenting her with our business card and telephone number for head office. And our last story. You're going to call the police on me for doing my job? Okay, carry on. I work for a water company carrying out repairs on burst water mains on an on-call basis of 1 week every 2 months. This particular job happened about 8 years ago. We get a call out that a major pipe feeding a large housing estate had burst and needed repairs ASAP. We head to the yard about 11 p.m. at night to collect our gear and get the plans and drawings of other utilities in the area of the work. We arrive on site, set up the traffic management as per regulations, speak with the inspector that called us out for an exact location of repair, too much water to mark in the usual way. We set up our barriers and work lights around the work area. We get out our steel saw and cut a couple of meters of tar out, ready to start breaking the tar out of the road. Just as I start the jackhammer going, Mr. Sleepyhead comes stomping down the street in his slippers and dressing gown, looking rather perplexed. I took my ear protection off to see what he wanted. I could tell it wasn't to offer us a coffee. He then proceeded to tell me, "You can shut that effing thing off and F off until it's daytime." I explained that it was emergency work and we couldn't have 600 properties get up and have no water in the morning, so it has to be completed now. And our work was fully understood by the council and the police. We then get the usual bullocks of, "Do you know who I am?" I refrained from telling him I knew exactly who he was, an irritating butt wipe who was stopping us from working. He then starts turning the air supply off so I can't use the jackhammer, which was ever so slightly annoying. He then stated that he knew the police chief inspector and would have me arrested if I carried on. I said that I have to carry on as per my emergency work order, and if he carried on obstructing us, I'd have to call the police to get the job finished. Needless to say, he did it again and said, "Call who you like. I'll have you arrested and sacked by the morning." By now, I was tired, cold, and wet and starting to get slightly irritated by his actions, so cue MC. I go back to the van and ring the police to explain that we're out carrying an emergency work order and are being prevented from completing it by one of the local residents and explain what he's doing to stop us working. He stomps off in his now soggy slippers and I poured a coffee. About 40 minutes later, headlights appear in the distance, so I thought, great, just what we need so we can get done and recharged by 6 a.m., hopefully. Mr. Sergeant and Mr. Constable arrive and come for a chat and find out what TF is going on and, his words, why TF are we doing it after midnight in the first place? So I proceeded to explain that the water main had burst and we needed to get the supply restored by 6 a.m. to save between 1,500 and 2,000, only a slight exaggeration, people having no water in the morning when they get up. He then realized the job needed to be done and toddles off for a word with Mr. Sleepyhead. Before long, we can hear the shouting from down the street. It then goes quiet. He comes back down to us to explain that the guy was a sandwich short of a picnic, a British euphemism for a nut job, and that they're going to have to hang around in case Mr. Sleepyhead started playing stupid games. So we fire up the compressor and start jackhammering again with my back towards the police car to save anything pinging off in that direction. A few minutes later, the machine driver toots his horn to get my attention. Mr. Sleepyhead had only come down the road carrying a piece of timber, lumber for you American folks, and was in the process of getting arrested for disturbing the peace. I honestly laughed so hard I nearly peed myself. Who TF is that stupid when the police are around? Just in case anyone is interested, we were back on by 5:30 a.m. and had a coffee off Mr. Sleepyhead's neighbor, who was highly amused because he'd seen the whole incident out of his window. His only disappointment was his surveillance cameras didn't pick up the video, and he only had the audio to share with his mates. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.